A cherished North Carolina ritual plays out Sunday mornings across our state as church families greet one another and swap small talk after the service. After the hugs and handshakes, parishioners disperse to while away the warm afternoon with family and friends. Except here, where they may linger longer in the peacefulness of a garden of trees amid the silent graves at Tarboro's Calvary Episcopal Church. All of this planned loveliness can be traced back to the 50-plus year ministry of one man, Joseph Blunt Cheshire, Calvary Church's first rector, a man of considerable faith and strong vision, who busied himself not only with building up the parish, but eventually with filling in the sky as well.
By the time they decided to build this church, his congregation had gone from, I think, 10 when he got here, to 33. But the wonderful thing about those 33 parishioners in 1858 built a church that would seat 500 people. And the population of the town at the time was only 1,200. And I think it's a wonderful example of their enormous faith.
In time, the churchyard received its share of attention as well. Reverend Cheshire's dream was to collect seeds from all over the world that would thrive at Tarboro's latitude.
And my favorite one is there's a incense cedar that was called a California arborvitae until 1950.
This is one of our California incense cedars, and the story goes that's recorded in our archives that Dr. Cheshire grafted the California incense cedar onto our native, the rootstock of our native eastern red cedar.
These magnificent trees are incense cedar from the ground up and Edgecombe County red cedar from the ground down. And they thrive and they do fine. And unless they're covered by mulch, you can see the demarcation line.
I'm not sure how many total plants we have, but I do know that we have at least 130 large trees and of 33 different species, but that does not include the shrubs and the perennials and ground covers, which are many, many. One of the first trees Dr. Cheshire planted in the churchyard was this cork oak. He planted it from a seed sent over from Spain.
Here, cork bark is a curiosity. In Spain, it's shaped into corks for wine bottles.
We have 2 loblolly pines here. This is my favorite because of the size of the bark plates, and the whole tree is just huge.
Many of these larger specimens, whether one of several magnolia species, an English yew, or perhaps the English boxwood plantings put in by Dr. Cheshire, have shared the rector's more than 5 decades at Calvary Parish, and then some. His gravesite is here, among wives, daughters, and a son. In fact, the graves at Calvary Parish tell many tales. One can only imagine the stories behind markers like these. Perhaps the most famous is that of William Dorsey Pender, the boy general of the Confederacy, killed at Gettysburg and buried beside his best friend from West Point, Colonel John Mercer, who fell at Plymouth. From the famous to the man next door, local citizens have given their lives in countless conflicts and are honored here. And then there's Amy.
There's a section of the churchyard set aside for the burial of slaves. For the most part, wooden markers were used for the slaves' graves, and so they have not survived. There are 2 stones there still left, and one of whom is just identified as Amy.
It would be all too easy to pass by the sad fact of the relative impermanence of slaves' markers compared to others in the churchyard, and blame this great neglect on the times, were it not for the long shared history of 2 neighborly congregations that sit here side by side. Calvary Church and St. Luke's Episcopal.
Every so often, there's a question arises about why don't these two congregations combine, because their congregation is very small, but they have a lot of pride of identity in that wonderful little church, and we worship together quite a bit. We're often together for services at Easter and at Christmas.
And sometimes when hurricanes strike.
In 1999, Hurricane Floyd came along, and all of the rivers were full. There was nowhere for the water to go, and a very great deal of this town went underwater. Amazingly, this church did not get any water in this building, in the sanctuary.
And now one last story. And it has to do with too much water, bare feet, candles, and an abundance of hope.
Our daughter Lane was to be married at Calvary Parish on Saturday, September the 18th. Hurricane Floyd came through on Wednesday, and then by Thursday night, the water started rising in the river. My husband and I were not able to get over here because we were on the other side of the river. And so, but we told Lane that she should definitely get married because they were going to Spain for their honeymoon. And it was a gorgeous day. From everything I've heard and pictures I've seen, the sun was streaming in through these beautiful windows, but there was no electricity. Lane had on overalls and a t-shirt, and of course she had her strand of pearls, so she was all dressed up, and she was barefoot, as was her husband, Brett. We were sitting at home on our cell phone. We heard the whole service, and when it came time, when the minister said, and who gives this woman to be wed? My husband said, I do.
You never can tell when the next hurricane will hit. Life can be tough, no less for people of faith. But the long history of this congregation, with its peaceful churchyard, respected neighbors, and timeless presence, speaks quietly of truths that endure. And that can be mighty comforting.